Okay, and we're back. With us is Jen Ruiz, I believe. I don't know why I struggle so hard with those last names. Is a lawyer turned travel blogger who's took 20 trips in 12 months while being employed full time. She's been featured in the Washington Post, ABC News, the Huffington Post as a budget and solo travel expert. Jen is also a number one Amazon best-selling author. Her debut book, The Affordable Flight Guide: How to Find Cheap Flights and See the World on a Budget. She also did a TED Talk, The Power of Flying Solo. Welcome to the show. How are you, Jen?
I'm doing very well, Eric. How are you?
Awesome, awesome. It's nice to meet you.
Likewise. Thank you for having me today.
Oh
Absolutely.
yeah. So where are you right now? Are
I'm in
you
Puerto Rico.
Whoa,
nice? Okay.
nice.
I've been here since
Um,
last September. And then just kind of quarantined here for the last couple of months. So it's not bad. I mean, we
hmm.
get pretty solid weather year round and about 12 hours of sunlight because we're so close to the equator. So it's a nice routine.
Oh, that sounds nice to me.
Yeah, I'm very, very, very jealous.
Um, so tell us about these trips. There was things that did things happen leading up to your idea to say, "Hey, I'm going to take 20 trips in 12 months." Like where did that come from?
Yeah, absolutely. I think just approaching 30, I realized that I had not done a lot of travel. This was something that hit me as I was finishing law school, that I had gone through, 7 years of advanced schooling and paid a lot of money and didn't do like not one study abroad or semester
Hmm.
abroad or anything like that. So in law school, I actually went to Australia for a summer, and that was so wonderful. I mean, once you got over the 3 week hump of homesickness and my goodness, I really am across the world from everybody I know kind of feeling.
Yeah.
But then once you get past that, it just becomes a wonderful, I think, once in a lifetime experience. And that's how I grew to be fond of travel and realized that it had a lot to offer me. And so when I was working full time as an attorney, I didn't really have a lot of time for vacation. It's something that wasn't
Hmm.
prioritized or really, you had vacation days, but were you encouraged to take them? Not so much. You
Right.
were kind of like applauded and incentivized to work around the clock and be kind of just that, workaholic person that I think is so common in that field. And for me, I wanted to accomplish something different. I felt like I had put so much work into graduating and getting barred in 2 states and, working. And I spent my 20s and were supposed to be kind of the fun decade, that if people are
Yeah.
doing keg stands or something wild, and I'm just here like in an office like filing lawsuits. So I was like, I'm doing something crazy. I've decided that I wanted to really do something grand, and I
Yeah.
figured if it was a challenge that was worth taking because I could distract myself from the, prospect of, turning 30, just the milestone birthday of it all. And, am I where I want to be in life kind of feeling. And it was great. So I was able to use that time and plan and actually ended up taking 20 trips in 12 months, which was crazy. So I call it my year of adventure. And it was
Wow.
worth, everything that I did to get there.
So
And you were
did
work.
you when you were yeah, did you come back and work and then another trip and then come back and then work and another trip still?
Yes.
But then
Yes.
during those trips, you were like, maybe I should just work remotely. Is that kind of what happened?
I did start working remotely during that time. I hadn't considered it beforehand because I was of the mindset that, you're pursuing a career and that you should really devote all of yourself into your career and that kind of
Yeah.
traditional path. And every extra, moment that you have going to professional associations. And so the concept of kind of side hustling, right? That wasn't something that
Hmm.
I was comfortable or knew a lot about. And so that year, I realized that to make this work and for me to be able to afford to take all of these trips, I had to increase my income. There was just no way to
Hmm.
do it otherwise. So I was able to, that February, fairly early on in the game, get hired
Hmm.
to teach English online. And so I could do that every morning before work, like from 6 a.m. to 8:30, and then also like at nights and on weekends. So I would be, kind of some Saturdays at like 3 a.m. waking up to just like teach the whole morning and get a bulk of classes in because I'd be making like
Wow.
$20 an hour doing this. And so doing that, I was able to augment my income by at least $1,000 every month, sometimes double that. And I was able to use that money to pay for the trips every month.
Wow, that's amazing.
It might be kind of a silver line after hearing you say that. That might be kind of a silver lining with like the COVID going on right now, is so many people like moving over to online stuff that it probably will open up a lot of people to be like, wow, well, now I can kind of just go wherever I want to go and do that. Um,
Absolutely.
was so this is reading through your stuff. It's I've always struggled really hard with travel. I don't know. I'm like a mama's boy, so I'm always nervous to like be by myself in like new situations, and I couldn't imagine even like, especially being a girl. Was that a huge problem for you, like getting over the hurdle like mentally, or have you always just kind of been really independent and that doesn't bother you at all? Going to a different going to a different country, like I couldn't imagine it. I've only been to Canada and America, so that's just so easy. That's an easy trip.
It is. It's an easy trip. I definitely recommend it. Lots of love to Canada. But I'm not going to say I wasn't scared or that I didn't have my hesitations. You have a lot of excitement going up to it. And then right before you leave, it's like nervous, like, oh my God, I'm going to vomit excitement.
Yeah.
And then, and then when you're on the flight, it's like, okay, well, now I'm just restless to get there. And then once you get there, it's
Yeah.
like, well, I'm here. So it is a whirlwind of emotions, definitely. And it does take a toll, but it was, I think, offset by all of the positive emotions once I got there and I was able to first kind of make what it was that I wanted to do come true. So I was able to be like, I wanted to come here and I brought myself here and here I am standing in this place right now. So I think that feeling in and of itself was very gratifying. And then also just being able to see all of the things that I wanted to see because I'm a nerd. So I love history and culture and just learning and
Hmm.
food and taking all the tours and just my mind exploded just seeing everything, firsthand. And I was like, this is amazing. So I really just so many experiences that I'm grateful for, getting blessed by a monk in Cambodia and, seeing Ghiberti's like doors in Florence firsthand, the actual golden gates of heaven there. So a lot of really cool things that I saw and experienced. And so I think that's why, and that's the feeling that I was chasing. And that's what made all of those early mornings getting up. And I hate getting up early and, made all of the, 10-hour flights and everything just worth it because it was worth it. I 100% without any doubt say that it was worth it.
Do you think it
Right.
was
That's
better
awesome.
doing this alone, or would you have rather done it with other people?
So I think I did do like maybe 3 of the 20 trips with others. So I had a friend that came with me to the Grand Canyon, and I had 2 friends that came with me to Iceland. And then I went to Albuquerque for a friend's wedding, and it happened to be at the same time as the International Balloon Fiesta. So I just
Hmm.
added a $500 once in a lifetime balloon ride to my trip. And I said, hey, charge it because it's worth it. And I'm never gonna like be timed to be perfectly in the area and do this balloon ride and take off, with 300 other balloons at the same time. That was one of the best experiences I've ever had. And so those were trips I was able to do with other people. I think it does make you feel like you have a safety net. So
Hmm.
if you lose your card, if your card doesn't work when you get there, if you don't have enough cash, if you are feeling sketch about your Uber driver, like all of these people would be there as a safety net to help you. But I don't
Right.
think that's a deterrent because I think what many people don't realize is that on a day-to-day basis, you're already kind of getting along on your own in whatever part of the world you're in.
Hmm.
And so
Right.
you're already, taking your precautions to be careful when you go out at night and be careful locking your door and like things like that. And so I think I've always lived alone, and I think that that's made it helpful. And I live alone in big cities, so Miami, Baltimore. So these I'm kind
Oh
of
yeah.
accustomed to being vigilant, and I'm kind of accustomed to figuring things out. So I think it's a nice added bonus to have somebody there to share things with. Definitely when it comes time to taking pictures, oh my goodness, your life is exponentially easier. Um,
Yeah.
but it's not necessary. And I don't think that people should be discouraged if they don't have somebody to go with, because I think that there's also benefits of traveling alone. Like you interact more with your
Uh huh.
local
Uh huh.
surroundings when you don't have that person next to you that you're talking to the whole time, that speaks your language, that is that kind of safety blanket. You
Hmm.
Uh huh.
are you're forced to engage with absolutely everyone. And it's fun where that can lead. Like I had no idea when I got to Meteora, Greece, and I went on a tour, waking up early morning and like first thing right when I got there, like too much. I needed to acclimate a little more. So I was already not feeling great. And there was like a 9-person, really energetic Italian family on that tour and me. And so I'm like, and by the end of that trip, the Italian family's like, would you like to come with us in our family van to see the rest of the monasteries? And I'm sitting here in the back of a van with a bunch of Italians. And like, like, I did not expect this to be where my day went. And my mother would definitely disapprove of me being in a van. But you know, you go with your gut, and they were a very loving family. I had like small children next to me. I felt like they were genuinely their children. And so like, and it was a really wonderful day. I made friends. I still am in contact with them. One of the little boys actually has now grown a few years later and said he started blogging because he was inspired talking to me. So it's really lovely to see the friendships and connections you make when you are open to them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
awesome.
I'm terrified to travel alone, and that's just me. But I can relate to like, cause I went to New Orleans last year with some friends, and that's kind of like a big deal for me. Like that's kind of out of the box. But like you plan and plan for months and months, and you plan and you write things. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do that. When the morning comes, like the morning where you get up and it's like time to go to the plane, I'm like, let's just cancel it. Like it would be so much easier. The easiest thing to do right now would just be to cancel it. That would be the easiest thing to do. But then yes, I I get through the airports and shuffling around, and then once I get there, it's kind of like a breath of fresh air, and it's like, okay, we're here now, and now you can kind of relax. But traveling alone, while it sounds appealing, like it sounds scary a little, but it'd be fine. I know it'd be fine.
And I don't like hitchhike or generally get in vans in a normal setting. But again, this was where I was on an organized tour already for the full, like practically day with these people, and I felt comfortable like seeing, for another hour or so with them. So I take these things and these settings. Like when I was in Greece, there was a man that I asked to take my picture, an older man that I later learned was from one of the islands. And he asked me to go for a coffee after. And at first I was like, is this a creepy thing? Because he's like 80. So, I mean, it's very, but he was just genuinely wanted to talk because he saw I was so curious about the history, and he wanted to share stories of his island with me. So I got to hear all these myths of this island that he was just dying to share with somebody. And he was like, it was really a pleasure, like having this company for an hour. Thank you for joining me for coffee. And these are things I judge experiences very much on an individual basis and how I feel in the situation. This is midday and 2:00 in a very touristy area. We're going like right to a very visible place. So things that I kind of take and assess as they come. But always being very vigilant, always making sure that I have somebody that's waiting to hear from me regularly. My mom. And so she does a really good job. I send her GPS pings sometimes if I'm going somewhere. If I go out at night, I go out with organized tours or groups. So I kind of have already an itinerary and a guide that's taking us through and is responsible for making sure that all the little ducklings come back. And so things like that, just small different precautions that I take. I've been to a tango show in Argentina by myself where I had an entire like corner booth right by the stage. And I remember being around all these kind of opulent couples, and everybody was looking at me like, who is this mysterious girl in the corner? And I'm just sitting here enjoying my drink and watching the tango show and having a lovely time. Like I don't mind.
Right. Have you been to Tokyo?
I have not, but Japan is on my list.
Nice.
I want to go Mario Kart driving throughout the streets.
Okay.
Is that a thing or
dress
something
up
like that?
the characters. Yeah, you can like replicate the video
gosh.
game and go racing and go karts in the streets. It's a thing.
Wow.
And so that's been high on my list for the longest time. I definitely have dreams of me like in Japan, Tokyo Drift, like with my like costume. Like it's going to be awesome.
Nice.
So how can we talk about like budget? Like how did you how did you get like, did you just save a shitload of money, or was it more based on let's just do this as cheap as we can? Is there any secrets there?
Yeah, a mix of things. So the first was getting kind of a budget to work with, right? So that I had something. So that was step one that we explained already, which was taking on that second job and teaching as much as I could to supplement my existing income. So then from there, I really learned about cheap flights because I learned that the most cost prohibitive thing for most people is, if it costs you $1,000 to get there, that's already my full budget for the trip.
Mm-hmm.
So how can I get really cheap flights? And so like, for instance, I flew to Iceland for $99 when WOW was still operational. And I got to Ecuador for $16, using some points and miles. So I started learning about
Wow.
everything, because why not? I, again, have some time and it's a personal goal. I'm very dedicated and it's fun, right? Like, it's fun. Like, you're learning to redeem something to then go and actually travel somewhere. Like, there's people who get a thrill from learning to redeem coupons to get deodorant at CVS. And
Right.
like, I'm learning how to redeem like points and miles to go to like the most exciting places in the world. So it is a lot to learn, but it was something I was happy to take the time to devote and do right. And so because of that, I really became kind of ingrained in the airline and miles and points world. I went to conferences. I met a lot of people in the space. I'm good friends with Scott from Scott's Cheap Flights that I've recommended and used for a long time, who's a flight alert program that he just like, now there's like maybe a dozen plus of them out there, and they just scope the internet all day, every day until a deal comes up, and then they ping you and they let you know, and then you have to kind of jump on it if you want to. But because of that, I'm part of, a ton of programs now that alert you. And so I get dozens of emails every day, like $100 flights to Aruba, like $200 flights to France, like, so all every single day, every single day. And so all of these things together help me find cheap flights, which significantly reduce the cost of my trips. From there, I only had to worry about activities, hotel, and food. And then I tried to get as many of those sponsored as I could in exchange for promotion on my blog, as I was learning about blogging as I went. So still not something I was comfortable with, but if you're not necessarily going to, attempt it, then you're never going to get there. So I
Right.
emailed a bunch of people, and, some emails went unanswered. Some partnerships worked out. I was able to get sponsored tours, some hotel stays, and that offset some of the costs there as well. And then on top of that, just trying to find any other affordable things. So finding the cheap street food markets, in Thailand that you can go to and have dinner for $1,
Yeah.
or things like that. So a mix of things.
Wow.
Do you focus with the budget thing? Do you focus at all on countries that are just all around cheaper? Does that play into that at all, or?
It does. So I definitely have to be careful. Like, I didn't get to go to a lot of Nordic countries, and Iceland was an expensive trip. Like, if I didn't have two friends to split that with, like, the Airbnb would have been $1,000 for 3 nights. Then that was like the cheapest I could find because it's Iceland. And
Hmm.
so
Yeah.
yes, some countries are inherently more expensive. Definitely all of those Nordic countries, Norway, Finland, all of those countries, because they're just really high end. They have beautiful resorts and gorgeous and things like that. And
Mm-hmm.
it's just it just didn't, the exchange rate's not necessarily as favorable to you. Whereas if
Mm-hmm.
you go somewhere like Asia, you can get a lot more bang for your buck.
Mm-hmm.
Europe, in certain places in Europe, it's really easy to find tourist accommodations and things at all price levels because they're so used to tourism. South America, your dollar goes very far. So yes, targeting certain destinations over others, for sure.
What was you have listed here, like, is there anything else you do to make money, like, while you're out traveling other than doing online stuff?
Now, yes, but at the time, no. Um, well, I mean, still online stuff. So now I just have the full online income streams and businesses that I do. So I have the books and I have the website, and that develops money through ad traffic and sponsored campaigns and things of the sort. So it's been a journey to diversify my income as a blogger and really try to do this full time and have it supplement my attorney income. I mean, to replace my attorney income, since I've been doing this now for 2 years. But it's been good, and I have no regrets. It's definitely stressful because you'll have months where you're far beyond, your expectations of what you're making. And then you have Corona that comes, and then your ad traffic that was accounting for, thousands of dollars a month is now down to like $100. And so it can be stressful to have, I think, those ups and downs of entrepreneurship. But because they are so diversified, I do feel like I'm okay, right? Like, I haven't been able to file for unemployment actually all year because I still have income streams and still have ways of making money. So I have been just working to make sure that they raise again and that the travel industry, kind of rebounds. And in the meantime, I've pivoted to helping people with remote work.
What's
Um,
what's? Oh, go ahead.
Okay, what are some of your favorite places you've gone to? And then some other places that are on your bucket list, like other than Japan. I'm curious.
Yeah, I definitely have a lot. So still on my bucket list, is Egypt, and I'm hoping to get
Oh,
there. I actually
nice.
have a trip booked to Cairo that I've had all year, and I've just been waiting to see how the world goes.
Sure.
But it's for next year, and I'm hoping because of the new museum that opened up, and just like I said, I'm a sucker for history, and it's where I can see
Hmm.
one of the last, remaining ancient world wonders,
Yeah.
and I just think it would be really cool. So for me, that's on a bucket list. Turkey is on the bucket list as well. So also that whole area that I feel I haven't really explored, like Israel, um, Jordan, that would be great. And in general, I think the Galapagos are still on my list. Alaska's on my list. So I still have a
Nice.
lot of places I want to see.
And what are some of the favorite that you've been to, like if you had to pick a couple of them?
I do think the south of France in summer is just lovely.
Right.
You have lavender, sunflower, just wonderfulness, sunshine. It's you can see where all the artists get inspired and why they all choose to go there and set up shop and have that be their place to commune with nature because it's just beautiful. And I think it's a very typical destination. But I encourage you to get out of
Mm.
Paris and get into like the south of France.
Hmm.
I think where else? I really enjoyed. I think a lot of people enjoy Bali, but I enjoyed staying in Ubud versus the beach cities because I got to know a local family there, and it was with them for 3 weeks, and we were able to kind of attend local ceremonies and just learn a lot about the culture there. So that was an interesting place to go if you are somebody that's interested in wellness. Kind of
Hmm.
meditation. If you can go on silent retreats there. So if you just kind of want to unplug and get away from things. It's a very unique place to be and very photogenic, very
That sounds
affordable.
very nice.
It
Where
is.
is Bali?
It's in Indonesia, so Southeast
Okay.
Asia.
Right. Gotcha.
Um, and
Nice.
and I think Ecuador. Ecuador I really enjoyed as well.
Hmm.
Because it's like it's bordered by Peru and Colombia, and both are very heavy tourist countries. But Ecuador has really tried to remain a little bit off the grid, like it doesn't promote tourism as heavily. But it's such a convenient place for Americans to visit. They use the U.S. dollars. They have U.S. outlets. It's very easy to get around there. A lot of Americans end up
Hmm.
retiring there, and it's an adventure capital. So things that would cost you, $100 plus to do in Costa Rica, zip lining, rafting, bungee jumping, skydiving, you can do in Ecuador for a third of the price, like $30. So it's really a cool place to go if you are somebody that, just wants to do something fun, adventure like, be out in the forest. You can go to the
Hmm.
center of the world and you can stand in the both hemispheres, like straddling the equator line. So you can be in the northern and southern
Oh my
hemisphere.
God.
So it's a cool place.
Wow.
There's a lot of cool places out there.
Have you
That
ever done
sounds
that
nice to me.
thing? Because someone told me, I had a history teacher that said it's really cool when you hit the equator that you can go to one side and flush the toilet and it'll spin one way, and then you can go to
Yeah.
the other side and flush the toilet and it'll spin the other way. You ever heard that,
What?
Brad? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, but I've always thought of it as like here in Australia, not like right on the line.
You
That's
can do it on the
doesn't
line,
even
can't
make
you?
any sense.
Yes, so they actually on the line they have a museum of like experiments and they take you through it so you can see
Oh,
the different way that the water moves. You can see that when you're on the line, the like I don't know, the universe will push you one way or the other. You cannot walk the straight line without being pushed one way or the other. Like
that's
you're gonna
What?
crazy.
be pushed off balance. You try to balance an egg on the nail, like the head of a nail right on the line, and that's like a competition. So there's a bunch of experiments that you do at the
Huh.
actual Equator Museum. It passes through the line in many places, but this is the only place, Ecuador is the only place where you'll find a monument, a full-on museum set so that you can experiment and have these kind of scientific reactions
That
to the location.
that sounds super cool. That sounds like I'd have a lot of fun there.
For
Heck yeah.
sure.
Well, it was great having you on. You were an awesome guest. Anything you want to plug or anything before you take off?
Well, thank you definitely for having me. I appreciated talking with you guys, and you're making me miss travel sitting here in quarantine. Uh, You can visit my website, jenonajetplane.com, to see different itineraries, destinations. My books are available on Amazon under the name Jen Ruiz, and you can find me on social media. I'm now on TikTok, which has been my new obsession over the last couple months.
Oh, me
Perfect.
too. Hell yeah.
So you can find me there at Jen on a Jet Plane, and by that same handle on Pinterest, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. And yeah, just thank you so much for having me on today.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you.
Well, have a good one.
We'll be back